everybody, welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces. So today we are talking about Ursula K. Le Guin's The Lathe of Heaven, but we are talking about a 1980 PBS production of the book, not the book itself. Chris has already done an extensive review of the book earlier on the channel. You can go look it up if you'd like to see it. Perhaps I'll try to put in a link to that video. I've never done that before, but we'll see if I can get something to show up on the screen. I don't know. It's worth a try, right? I have a few notes that I've taken, which are going to be down here, so I'm going to be looking down to refer to them every once in a while. What is it? Yes? The Lathe of Heaven is your favorite book? Okay, that's okay. So for those of you who don't know, the Public Broadcasting Service, or PBS, is an American television network that produces non-commercial, free-to-air television. So it's not designed to make money. It's publicly supported, right? You could donate money to PBS, and PBS received grants from all kinds of corporations and from the government. So it wasn't designed to just rake in the cash. It was designed to provide education and other things for the general public. It's where you could see things like Mr. Rogers and Cosmos, and of course, this Ursula K. Le Guin film. So in New York, their public television network was called WNET. And they are the ones that put together this experimental TV lab project where they did a bunch of weird television shows just to see how they would do, you know? And it turns out The Lathe of Heaven was part of that. So it was directed by David Loxton and Fred Barzik. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing those names. Both of them had huge careers in public television and production, producing all kinds of television. There weren't any credits that I instantly was like, oh, wow, I have to tell everybody that they did this. But their entire lives, like if you look at the list of stuff and the people they worked with, and I mean, it's crazy, right? They did a lot, but nothing that really jumped out that I wanted to mention here. But the three people that are in it are Bruce Davison, Kevin Conway, and Margaret Avery. So Bruce Davison is in Willard, the horror film from back in the 70s. He's in that, which is super cool. He was also in the TV version of Harry and the Hendersons. Now, I don't remember ever watching the TV show Harry and the Hendersons. I just always think of John Lithgow, of course, but I guess he probably replaced John Lithgow. He was probably the dad in Harry and the Hendersons, the TV show. And he also plays the evil senator in the X-Men film, the one who wants all mutants to get registered. And I think he turns into a big fish during the show, right? That's him. So super cool. And then you've got Kevin Conway. He is in the 1972 version of Slaughterhouse-Five, and he also plays Kahless in Star Trek The Next Generation. And then Margaret Avery, super famous. She was, of course, in The Color Purple. She played Shug. Now, Ursula K. Le Guin worked very closely with this production. She helped with the casting. She helped with the script rewrites, and all aspects. She was a part of it. Now, I need to make it clear that I haven't read the book. Chris read the book, but from what Chris has said about the book, I don't think this film follows the book page by page. You know what I mean? It seems to be slightly different to me. I'm not positive that it is, right? I may talk about this and Chris will be like, that's exactly what happens in the book. But it seems to be wildly different to me. So it is the story of a person who, when they dream, they find out that their dreams have come true the next day. Now, it's only specific dreams. It's not every little dream that they have. They have a special word for the type of dream. And he can tell when he's had that type of dream because he's extra exhausted the next day. So he doesn't want to change the world. He doesn't want that to happen at all. So what he does is he starts using his medication and mixing it in such a way to try to make himself stop dreaming. And he ends up overdosing, which is against the law. So he gets arrested, and he has a choice. He can either go to prison for breaking the law by overdosing, or he can go to voluntary counseling. So he chooses the voluntary counseling, but he's worried because he doesn't believe the doctor will believe him when he explains that when he dreams, his dreams come true. So he goes, the doctor does find out that his dreams do come true, and the doctor decides he's going to make the world a better place by using this guy's dreams. And the story is kind of about the moral ambiguity of changing things and using a person who doesn't want to be used for that purpose. That's really kind of the focus of this film. So that's just kind of a spoiler-free take on this movie. I recommend it. I really, really do. If you've seen tons of science fiction movies, you feel like you've kind of seen everything, and you just wish you could find something that was new and out there, this is it. This is super cool. It's absolutely worth checking out. I don't know. I watched it on YouTube, and of course it was terrible, right? It looked horrible, right? Just because it's not 4K, it's not, they haven't done anything fancy for the YouTube. I think somebody just recorded it off their TV, of course. But there might be a release of it somewhere if you look around for it. We recently were looking for the PBS version of the Sweeney Todd musical starring George Hearn and Angela Lansbury, and it took us forever to find it, and I'll be honest with you, I think eventually we probably ended up with a bootleg. I don't know that it was ever actually truly released, and it may be the same thing with this. But if you need to watch it on YouTube, go ahead. If you can find it somewhere and it's a legit copy, I would buy it just to support the people who worked on it, of course, you know. But it's really good. I do recommend it. It's not like one of my favorite sci-fi films of all time or anything like that. This was the first time I ever even heard of it when I watched it this time. But it was good. It was very interesting. Okay, so now I'm going to go into spoilers about it, okay? I want to talk about what I think are the differences and specific plot points that I actually really did enjoy. So, for starters, it opens as a nuclear war breaks out and a nuclear weapon hits the coast of America. And we see George, who is our main character in this story, we see him wandering the devastated streets, right? And I should say, this doesn't have a really high budget. It's public broadcasting, so they just really took what they could get. This script was really kind of perfect for them because it has a little bit of flashy stuff, but it's mostly just people talking to each other. So that was really perfect for public television. But they got like half a block of devastated street. They've got George walking down the street, and he falls over and he dies. Then he wakes up in his bed. He lives in this post-apocalyptic world. It's in Oregon, I believe. And it's always raining, and there's tons of people everywhere. And it's just a kind of a miserable existence. But he has to go and report for his voluntary counseling. So he goes and reports to the doctor, and he explains to the doctor that his dreams come true after he dreams them, if they're a specific type of dream. So the doctor hypnotizes him to make him dream, because he wants to help him. He wants to make his dreams not so bad. So he hypnotizes him, but the way he does it is by grabbing his neck. It's this really oddly kind of violent thing that makes him pass out. It's like a Vulcan neck pinch, right? He just grabs him by the neck super fast, right in the middle of a sentence, and the guy passes out. It's really kind of creepy and weird. So he grabs him by the neck and he passes out. And then he makes him dream about a horse. And when George wakes up, the office has changed. There was a picture of Mount Hood on the wall, but now it's a picture of the horse that he dreamed about. And he explains to the doctor, that picture has changed. And the doctor's like, okay, whatever, cuckoo, right? And he ushers him out and tells him to come back next week. So the next week he comes back, the doctor grabs his neck and he passes out, and he tells him to dream about rain. No, about sunlight, about the rain stopping. And then, right as he starts dreaming, the doctor gets this really weird feeling. And he runs outside and he sees the rain stop and he sees the sun come out. And then it turns out that their world has been in this huge drought and there's a lack of water. But the doctor remembers. And this confused me just slightly. And I want to explain. When I say something confused me, what I mean is, in the first dream sequence, they established that the doctor cannot tell that something has changed. But in the second dream sequence, he is completely aware that everything has changed. And that contradiction does not make sense to me. The scriptwriter makes the rules for this world. Why did they have him not understand the first time and then understand the second time without having some kind of an explanation? Like after he left, the doctor should have been like, I do remember Mount Hood or some stupid thing, right? They make the rules and they contradicted their own rules in that moment. Now, from then on, anyone who's with him while he dreams remembers the original world. So I think that that's good, right? And of course I could say, well, maybe it was the actor's fault. Maybe the actor wasn't playing confused enough in the first scene, because a later scene, we get Heather, I believe is her name. She's the lawyer. She witnesses a change, but she's really confused after the first one. After that, they come easier for her, but she is really confused. And I wish the doctor would have been more confused in the first scene. That's what was confusing to me. Because I do feel like if you're with the dreamer when it happens, you remember the past. I feel like that's how this film goes. But that first dream, I don't know if they were still trying to trick us, like, ooh, is he crazy? I don't know. It's too bad that they couldn't just go with their rules from the beginning. So that was confusing to me. But at that point, the doctor knows. But he pretends like he doesn't know. He acts like the rest of the citizens in the culture who just are aware that it changed. But he does let George know that he remembers. For some reason, he tells George, you changed everything. But then he acts like he doesn't remember, right? And I like that. I like that he was so surprised that he does tell George that he remembers, but then he starts changing. And George can't understand why he's changing, why he won't admit that he knows that he's changing the world. So George starts feeling like a victim. And he goes to this lawyer. He goes to a lawyer. And the lawyer says, well, I'll tell you what. I'll sneak into one of your dream sessions. And that way you can prove to me that things are changing. So she sets this elaborate thing up where she needs to come in and watch the machine. And she comes in and the doctor's already made himself this amazing office and he's this really famous dream guy. And right, the doctor's really made the world better for him. But in this dream, the doctor decides that overpopulation is a problem. So when he puts George under, he says, George, you know how upset you are about how crowded the trains are and how many people there are? I want you to dream about a world where there's no overpopulation problem. So they do this really neat sequence where they're sitting around this really crowded table trying to eat, and everybody that George knows is at this table. But slowly, as the camera pans around, certain individuals get covered with a gray cloth. They just slowly sit up or slump over, and a gray cloth is put over them, which looks really cool. It's a really neat artistic choice. And it gets to the point that it's only the lawyer and the doctor and George that are left sitting at the table while everybody else is just covered in gray cloth. It's a very cool scene. And of course, when he wakes up, most of the population is dead. Apparently, there was a plague 5 years ago. Now it's gone. It worked its way through the population and it's over. Or they found a cure or who knows what, but it's done. And like 3/4 of the population has been wiped out. So now, instead of living in tiny, cramped apartments, each of them has like an entire floor to themselves as their apartment or whatever, you know. So the world has changed massively. George can't handle it because he just killed off 3/4 of the population. The lawyer is massively confused because she does remember the plague, but at the same time, she remembers that there wasn't a plague. So it's very confusing for her and she's trying to catch up with what's going on. So from that point on, those two kind of become a team. They want to stop him from changing the world to make it better because he cannot control George's subconscious. He can't control how it happens. For example, another time he wants to have world peace. So he grabs George by the neck and knocks him out and makes him dream about world peace. But the way George dreams about world peace is he has aliens attack a colony on the moon, and that unites all the humans in panic and terror of the aliens that attacked the moon, right? Which is not what the guy meant, of course. Right? It's like the weird stories about genies. People make a wish with a genie, but because they don't word it perfectly, the genie tricks them any way that they can. I always find those stories really weird because it's strange to me to say to somebody, you shouldn't hope for things or you shouldn't dream for things because they might come true. Right? And I do get it. I do understand that just because a dream comes true for you doesn't mean your life will be perfect, but it will probably be better, I'm thinking, right? Like it's like that money can't buy happiness. Money can go a long way, right? There are certain things, right? Money's not going to stop you from dying. I get that. But to not have to worry about being evicted or to get to go out to eat sometimes because you feel like it, that's amazing, right? Money absolutely can make your life better. I feel like there's a group of rich people who have decided that they need to create this kind of narrative to show people that their lives are terrible, that we should somehow feel sorry for them, or that we shouldn't despise them or be jealous of them because it's actually worse to be rich than it is to be poor, right? Some kind of crazy nonsense like that. I don't know. I got off on a tangent there, but that's kind of the whole point of this idea is that you can't just rely on your dreams to make the world better because you can't actually control them. So, all kinds of weird things happen. They dream about no racism and everybody turns this weird gray color. Even though in the film they still look different. So, I don't feel like that would actually work, but I'm sure in the book it works a lot better. Because they're all, I think they all basically look the same, and they don't get rid of the aliens. They decide that the aliens should be very peaceful, and I really loved this about the movie because all of a sudden we have these weird turtle aliens that are characters, right? They like own shops and things. And they're super cool. They're super cute. I really liked the turtle aliens. They were very cool. But how it ends up eventually finishing is the doctor makes George dream that he can't change people's dreams. So he believes George is cured. So George goes home and he dreams the lawyer back into existence because she had a different skin color. So when everybody turned gray, she just vanished. I don't know why she vanished, but he dreams her back. So he's not cured. I don't know what's up with that. That was a little bit weird. And then the doctor has created a machine where he can now dream and change things. So he goes into his dream machine and everything goes horribly wrong. George wakes up in a total panic, and the lawyer, Heather, who's now his wife, is like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And he says, "I haven't felt this since 4 years ago during the war." And she doesn't know anything about a war 4 years ago. So he jumps up and he goes running to the doctor's office, and the earth is splitting open and lava shooting out. All kinds of crazy stuff, but PBS version of craziness, right? It's not like you can tell later on there's these big crack marks in the ground that they kind of have to step over, but you can kind of tell they just painted the sidewalk black where the crack was, right? But it's still fun. It's very cool. So they're avoiding the lava, and the stairs are on fire. They got to run up the stairs, and they stop the dream from happening. Whatever the doctor is trying to dream, they stop it. And then later they run into the doctor, and he's in a wheelchair, and his secretary's pushing him around, and he's like completely gone. He's not there, he's just slumped in his wheelchair, and they try to talk to him, but the secretary explains that he can't hear them. He won't answer them. And then George says, "You saw what happened 4 years ago, right?" And the guy in the wheelchair looks up at him and then just looks back down again. So we kind of take that as a yes. And what I kind of realized was this whole thing is a dream. George is dying after the nuclear weapon went off. He is laying on the ground dying. And all of this is what he's thinking in his mind before he truly dies. All these characters are in his dream. His dreams do not make things come true, except for the fact that he's dreaming. So in his dream, they're coming true. The whole thing is a dream. There have been other things like this. I'm not going to mention them because I don't want to spoil other things that you didn't realize were going to get spoiled, right? But we've seen this plot before. The whole thing is a dream. Now, it doesn't come off quite that badly. I feel like the point still comes across, but it was a little strange. I don't know that her book, the whole thing's a dream. I'm not positive about that. I think it's kind of hard when you bring the original writer onto the script writing process, because deep down inside, I don't think they want to write the same thing again. I think they want to make something new. You know what I mean? It's probably why Stanley Kubrick very wisely kicked Stephen King off the set of The Shining. Actually, it's probably not why. I think it's because Stanley Kubrick was a control freak, which was a good thing, it turns out, because he was really good at what he did. So it's good that he was in control of it, even though he was a control freak, right? But I think that there might be changes in there. And I am interested in Chris watching this and letting me know if that actually is how the book turns out, if the whole thing is just him lying on the pavement for 4 minutes before he dies of radiation poisoning, or if that's a massive change from what the book originally was. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. I do recommend it. It is super fun, especially if you feel like you've seen everything. If you've watched Soylent Green 27 times and it's your favorite and you just wish you could find something more than Logan's Run or Westworld, this is kind of like that. It's cool. It's kind of fun. You absolutely should check it out. Please hit the like button if you liked it. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more like this, because we have a ton. And have a great day.